A very good morning to you all, and welcome to our clusters talk again this morning. Today, we're going to talk about technologies of the future, AI, quantum, and beyond. Lots of exciting things to look at, and also to really consider what that means for clusters and also for the European competitiveness as a whole. We're going to look at things like quantum technology, the importance of artificial intelligence, and how those can ensure the green and digital transitions. Also, we're going to look at questions about EU sovereignty because, of course, where these AI tools and these technologies and these new materials are being created is, of course, really, really important as well when it comes to guaranteeing that we have access to the right sort of tools and that we can use them possibly. So I'll be guiding you through that, and I'm quite excited because this is absolutely my favorite topic to discuss. So hopefully we'll get lots of comments in the chat. And speaking of which, let's have a quick look at the agenda. First of all, we're going to hear from Nina on the news, as always. Then Gaspard Demura from the EU AI Office is going to talk us through the AI strategy and how that's going to be applied. We will then have our Slido questions, as always, but then we will go on to our panel debate. And of course, as ever, I hope you have lots of questions before wrapping up, as per usual, with the funding opportunities. When it comes to joining, please use Slido. When we launch the poll, there will be a QR code on the screen. I'll tell you a bit more about that when we get to that time. In the Q&A section, you can put your questions to our panelists. I will keep a close eye on that during the panel discussion, so we'll try and get through as many of those questions as possible. And as always, you can use the chat function to say hello. I see many of you doing that already. We'll share links there, and you can have a side conversation in the margins there as well. If you want to join and speak on camera or on your microphone, you can raise your hand. That's the button at the bottom of the screen that looks like that. So please do that. But do note that if you do so, the session is recorded and the recording will be published on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform website. So that's all the housekeeping. I think now I'm going to launch straight away over to Nina with the news.
Many thanks, Jennifer, and good morning to everyone to this session today at the beginning of December. We would like to invite you to fill in a survey to help shape the future EU for Business network. The European Commission is inviting stakeholders to contribute to the design of this future network, which is an initiative proposed under the new European Competitiveness Fund for the next MFF from 28 until 32. So this initiative aims to strengthen the support for companies, SMEs, startup scale-ups, and mid-caps by streamlining and integrating the advisory and partnering services that are currently offered by different networks, such as the EN or the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. So you can contribute to this informal consultation until the 30th of January, and we please ask you to do so. Your input is very important to shape this idea for this new network. So take the survey, the link is in the chat, please, either now or you have until the 30th of January next year. You can also support by have your say in the EU consultation on public procurement. So this revision of the public procurement directives should enable preference to be given to European products in public procurement and should also modernize and simplify procurement rules while making public procurement a tool for strategic investment. You can complete this survey until the 26th of January. The link is also in the chat. We also invite you to give your contributions to the call for evidence and public consultation for the Advanced Materials Act. Here the Commission is looking for your insights on how to excel in advanced materials in the EU, and the Act should help speed up production processes and the journey from the discovery to the market. So if you're working on advanced materials or have insights into this topic, have your say by the 12th of January on the EU Have Your Say portal. The link is also in the chat. And we also wanted to inform you about the new EU-wide protection for crafts and industrial product names. So, for example, if you're working with ceramics, textiles, jewelry, woodwork, or other locally rooted goods, you can now apply for EU-wide protection under the new EU geographical indication scheme for crafts and industrial goods. And producers may apply through a recognized association or individually, and you can find more information about this in the EC's press release from, I think it was the 1st of December. You can find it as well in the chat. And with that, I hand over back to you, Jennifer, so that we can get started with the topic of the day.
Thank you very much, Nina. Yes, indeed, all of those links are in the chat. So if you don't get time to click on the slide, you can find them in the chat. We'll go straight over now to Gaspard Demure, who's Deputy Head of Unit on AI Innovation and Policy Coordination in the EU AI Office, part of the European Commission. Gaspard, you're going to tell us all about the AI Continent Action Plan and Apply AI Strategy. So we've got your slides ready, so looking forward to hearing it.
Thanks a lot, Jennifer, and very happy to be there. Thanks for the invitation. I think we are among friends there. We've been working very closely from the AI office with clusters, with the European Enterprise Network, because we simply think that putting in practice this policy, making it real in the sectors really will be depending on clusters, on European Enterprise Network and other networks going to the companies and business on the ground. So what I want to present today, and maybe we can go to the next slide, is the kind of overall concept on which we are working and explain the steps of implementation. As you know, some months ago, in April, we published the AI Continent Action Plan, which is basically a strategy to make sure that Europe stays in the race for the development of the most advanced AI models and systems. So from large language model to specialized AI systems, we really want to make sure that we are not dependent only on foreign models, but we have at home the infrastructure, the data, the skills to develop these models and to fine-tune them. For this, we have clustered, if I may say so, a number of priority actions in the field of infrastructure, data, skills, simplification of the regulation, and uptake of AI in the sectors, and I will focus on this specific point on the Apply AI strategy. So maybe we can dive into the infrastructure on the next slide. Just to let you know that, of course, in the European Union, we do not have the same hyperscalers that they have in the US or the number of data centers that we see developing in China. And therefore, for us, it's absolutely essential that we provide to the businesses, to the research community in Europe, the right computing capacity for developing the models. This is in Europe what we call the AI factories. We've been working since a decade, more or less, on the development of a network of high-performance computers. So these high-performance computers pre-existed our AI plan, if you want, but these computers were not specialized in the training of AI models. They were heavy calculation centers, notably for climate modeling or nuclear modeling, for instance. And what we have done in the context of developing what we call the AI factories is really either to add GPUs, AI specialized processes to the computers, or to build a parallel computing capacity specialized in AI in the same structure. We have now 19 of these AI factories throughout Europe, which makes it easy for the companies and the research community to access the computers. And let's be clear, AI factories are not just computing centers. They are bringing a number of services to this computing capacity, such as priority access, training on how to use the computer, because each computer has its own specificities. We also created a number of antennas for the countries that do not have on their territory these supercomputers, so that you can access through broadband and very efficient connection, the computers. We're speaking there about AI factories with up to 25,000 GPUs. So these are powerful AI centers, but far from what you see in the US for the training of Grok, for instance, or the most advanced AI models. And therefore, if we go to the next slide, we are now entering in the next level, if you want, of the let's say AI infrastructure capacity, and this is what we call AI gigafactories. We want to make sure that we have in Europe 4 to 5 of these extremely advanced computing centers for AI. So we are speaking about over 100,000 advanced AI processes. But we are also speaking about a new business model. AI factories are essentially publicly owned high performance computer where you have a co-financement by the EU and by the member states. The AI gigafactories will be a combination of private investments and public money. 2/3 will come from the private sector, and 1/3 will come from a combination of member states, European Commission, but also EIB group. And I think this is very important because it will drive really the access to the gigafactories in a different way. It will be really for the companies, for the consortium of businesses involved in shaping the project to have a privileged access, but also to find clients to make these gigafactories profitable organization, and also really have a business-orientated process for providing access to the computing capacity. We have launched the process this summer, and if you want, we can go to the next slide just to see a bit the magnitude of the potential investments. We were really like looking if interest existed in Europe, and we actually were very surprised by the extremely high level of potential investments that we received during this call for expression of interest. More than 76 respondents from over 16 member states, something like 230 billion committed or proposed, if you want. So the reality is in AI in Europe, investments are available. Really, stakeholders are ready to invest, and they want to do that in a way which is also making sense for the society and for the business. So we are launching now the official call for proposal. It will be out probably beginning of next year. And the work we are doing for the moment is to cluster, if you want, the different proposal that we received so that we go from 70 proposal to a more limited number so that we arrive at the end of the process to 4 or 5 gigafactories. High performance computer is important. That's really for the initial training of the models, but it's not the whole story about AI. And if we go to the next slide, you will see that we are also working very hard on the cloud dimension. We know that once you have developed and trained the initial model, it is as important to infer and fine-tune the models for the specific needs of, let's say, the users. In Europe, we are lagging behind China and the US in the number of efficient data centers on our territory, and therefore we will launch and adopt at the beginning of next year, probably around March, the Cloud and AI Development Act, which is a simple blueprint. It says we want to triple the number of EU data center in the next 5 to 7 years. So as simple as that. This entails accelerating considerably the permitting time for opening a new data center in Europe, which also means that we need to make sure that the energy efficiency, water use of the data center is also looked at very carefully. So we will also work on the standardization dimension to make sure that when we open a new data center and to speed up the process, we make sure we are using the best available technologies for cooling and for energy efficiency at large. This entails, let's say, the hardware, how you cool the system, but also the algorithmic architecture, because we've seen with DeepSeek and other models that you can increase considerably the energy efficiency of the models themselves by fine-tuning the architecture. So this is really for the infrastructure, but if we go to the next slide, you'll see that we are working also very much on the data. Having many GPUs is fine, is great. Fine-tuning the algorithm is also great, but you need high quality data in great volume to make sure that you can compete with the US or with China in really creating the most advanced models. We've been starting to work on data for a decade, also working with specific sectors like the automotive sector. We've been working very hard, notably around the Gaia X concept, to start to see how we can share the data, pool the data in sectors. We have developed the first elements of what we call the data spaces for different sectors, from energy to automotive. But still, we see that it's difficult in Europe to share the data between the different actors of the supply chain. You have business secrets, you have clients and supply chain listing, and these are essential information for the companies. So they're ready to share if it makes sense and if also it brings a value to their data. So we adopted last months now, at the same time as the digital omnibus package, the data union strategy, which is exactly about increasing the volume and quality of the data we have in the European Union for training the models. We will use the kind of safe space offered by the gigafactories and AI factories for creating the trust for companies, for businesses to share their data. It is about hardware. It is about legal framework, having contracts for the companies to understand how they can share the data, what type of data, what is the data privacy regime, liability. So we are really entering into the details of the sharing, which makes it possible to really increase the volume. We will do that also sector by sector. You know that the AI factories and gigafactories are not just computing centers, they are also having a sectorial orientation. And so within the data factories and gigafactories, we will create what we call data labs, which is the next step in the data spaces, really having synthesized data, pseudo anonymization, and so really increasing the pool of data for the training sector by sector. Let's go to the next slide now, which is why we want to have this data and to fine tune. When Draghi developed its report at the beginning of the mandate of this commission, it became clear that if we want to stay in the race for AI, it is not just about keeping developing very high advanced large language model and Gen AI models, but also to take benefit of the sectors that exist in Europe. We have world-leading companies in many of them, from automotive to space to chemicals, health, and this is really our asset. This is our competitive edge at international level. And therefore, what we want to do is not to create, large language model for the sake of creating large language models. It is about serving the needs of the companies in the different sectors. And therefore, based on the Draghi report, we've been selecting 10 of these sectors, which really are the most promising in terms of uptake of AI. And we see actually that many leading companies in Europe are already running towards AI, changing their business model, adapting their strategy. Where we are lagging behind in Europe is for mid-caps, small mid-caps, and SMEs. There, we're saying that more or less only 13.5% of the companies are actively uptaking AI. And this is really an issue in terms of competitiveness. So the Apply AI strategy that we adopted in October is exactly about that. Finding the tools, having the dialogue with the stakeholders, fine-tuning the models to really make it easy for the companies to onboard AI, to make it an essential element of their digitalization process, but more widely of their strategy and the way they are operating. So we also added one sector, which is the public sector, to the picture, to the strategy, to make sure that actually we create demand for the AI systems and models that are developed in Europe and that are sovereign. We have a huge opportunity there. More than 8,000 startups exist in Europe, are striving in the field of AI, with around 600 to 800 really developing models and systems. So we have a great pool of providers. We have many companies that are looking for solution in their sectors, and it is about matching offer and demand. For doing that, we have creating a single structure of implementation, which is what we call the Apply AI Alliance. It will be a forum where, it is a forum where all stakeholders, so meaning companies, business association, register and get information on the latest policy, but also can contribute to shaping the policy. We will have workshops that will be advertised on this platform where you can register. And these workshops will be about the next step in the implementation of the flagship actions sectors by sectors. So to give you an example, in the field of health, we are saying that we will display and have in Europe a network of health checking centers using AI, making sure that citizens in Europe have access to early diagnosis or services in the field of health. We also said that we will develop frontier AI models for that specific sectors, bringing the best of the best in the research community, the companies, and seeing how we can use these frontier AI models in the field of health. We will do the same for the energy sector, for mobility, where we are also creating an action for accelerating the testing of autonomous vehicle in a number of cities and regions. We see autonomous vehicle, in the US, in California, or in China in the streets. It's not the case yet in Europe, and we want really to accelerate. For this, we need to team up with the public authorities. In the Cloud and AI Development Act that I was mentioning before, we are also thinking about the sovereignty dimension to provide incentives to the public authorities to buy EU-made models. And this will be related to, the specificities of the cloud, where the models are inferred, but also the specificities of the AI models and systems themselves. There is a reflection ongoing in Europe, but also in the OECD and many different instances on how to define, and that's a complex issue, how to define the sovereignty of a model based on a number of criteria, such as, the nature of the companies that develop the models, but also which type of data has been used during the training phase. We can go to the next slide, please. So what will be very, very important now is to make sure that we align, these different pieces, starting from the AI Act, but also the other digital legislation. That's really what we have been doing in the omnibus package that we just published, and I'll come back to that. But we also want to make sure that this data union strategy, Apply AI strategy, is going to work in a kind of ecosystem. And that's where clusters, European Enterprise Network, but also European Digital Innovation Hubs will be absolutely essential. And that's why I'm there today. We will need your help in really making sure that it's not up to the companies, to the businesses to understand what is there for them. It will be really us bringing them to the right entry point of the ecosystem. So we want to team up with you. For us, the privileged entry point to this ecosystem will be the European Digital Innovation Hubs. They are 250 all over Europe. Some of them are also clusters organizations, so it's a great combination. They are on the ground in the regions, and they have the trust of the business owners. They will explain to them, what AI can bring to their business model by providing use cases and success stories, and they will really then through a client journey bring the company either to a gigafactory, to an AI factory, to a data lab, to a testing and experimentation facility, to a cluster. I mean, depending on the phase of the cycle of AI you want to select. So let's continue to team up on this, and I will finish with the next slide. Which is about skills. We will really need to work together to make sure that we increase the skills not only in the companies. We've been developing the AI Skills Academy from that perspective to increase the number of masters and PhD in the field of AI, but we also need to increase the skills throughout the society, in small companies, in mid-caps. This is what we do in the European Digital Innovation Hubs. I know that you're working hard on this also in the clusters concept. I think I still need to go to the next slides also to explain quickly the regulatory dimension, but I could come back and explain that more in details. Just to let you know that for what concerns the compliance with the regulation, this is an important part. We have created a tool which we call the AI Act Service Desk. It is a platform online that you will find very easily with the name. It is an interactive platform where all your members or companies can ask questions about the compliance with the AI Act. So for instance, you're a small company working in medical device, you want to use AI to improve your process, or having a chatbot for your clients. Are you falling under high risk in the context of the AI Act? You type your question, and in 48 hours, you will get an answer from this tool, which is managed by the AI office directly. This is not, let's say, a ruling by a court, of course, but it's a legal advice which is stamped by the AI office and provides clarity. What we have done also is to simplify the regulation. You know that we have been giving more time for your businesses to implement the AI Act in the high-risk context, because the standards for the implementation of the provisions of the AI Act on high risks are not ready. So we've been looking at this, in a kind of objective way. We need to take more time to really together in the standardization bodies to find the right standardization for the AI Act. This will be done in the coming months, and for businesses developing AI models, or for businesses that are using AI in their products, you will have more time for the implementation. We have also measures related to the centralization of the assessment of the AI models and system, but that I can keep for the question and answer. I've been speaking already far too long, so I stop there. Thank you warmly for the invitation and for your attention. Give the ball back to Jennifer, and I'm staying there for any question you may have. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Gaspard. Not at all speaking too long. It's absolutely fascinating and really useful to get that laid out for us very clearly. One of the better presentations I've seen on what's happening in the AI in Europe, including the gigafactories. We're going to take the temperature of the attendees now and everyone who's joining by using our Slido tool. So please either scan that with your QR code or go directly on your browser to slido.com and put in clusters AI as the code to join the correct event on Slido. I will give people a moment to do that. But our first question is, where are you or your member companies on the AI adoption journey? And there are several choices there. Not currently considering AI embedded across operations and products, scaling in several business units, pilot underway, or exploring and awareness stage. So a lot of different options there. Some may say that their pilot projects are underway. So far, we've only had 5 votes, but still most people who are voting have pilot projects underway. Scaling in several business units, exploring or awareness stage also. Nobody saying it's completely embedded and nobody saying they're not considering it. So everybody a little bit in the middle so far. I'll let a few more votes come in. Oh, okay, somebody is not currently considering it. Let's see if we can get up to maybe 30 votes. We're at 25 now, 26. And that's looking pretty stable. Okay, I think we can move on to our next question because it's pretty stable there to say that the highest vote is pilot projects underway. Very few have it fully embedded and very few not considering it. And then a couple in the middle exploring and scaling in several business units. So our next question is, how familiar are you with quantum technologies? Not at all, basic awareness, moderate understanding, actively involved, or expert level. And we've included a few comments there. So moderate understanding means you can discuss the use cases. Basic awareness means you've got the buzzwords. So we're seeing a mix of people across it, quite a few with basic awareness and quite a lot with not familiar at all as well, and the rest sort of somewhere in the middle, somewhat expert. So I think on this one, we're seeing that compared to the last question on AI, the quantum technologies are significantly less familiar to people, which is probably true across the entire European population, as we use AI every day, and yet quantum is still feeling a little bit out of reach of many of us. So we'll see there we have almost 30 votes, and from the very beginning we can see that basic awareness is top, followed by not familiar at all, and only very few at expert level. So thank you very much for that. Luckily we do have some experts on our panel discussion, and we will turn to our panel discussion now. So I'm going to introduce our speakers and ask them to turn on their cameras and microphones. We have Aitor Moreno, Head of Quantum Technologies and Systems at LKS Next. Katja Eifinger is Project Manager at Air Artificial Intelligence Regensburg. Juha-Pekka Alonen is AI expert at Robocoast EDIH. Matthias Schumacher is Project Manager, Technology and Innovation at EIN Quantum NRW. I hope I'm not pronouncing that incorrectly. Perhaps there's a special way to say it. Merete Norby is International Senior Consultant and a PhD at MADE, which is Manufacturing Academy of Denmark. And Thomas Rubeleiter is Co-Chair, Sector Group Digital of Enterprise Europe Network. Thank you all very much for joining us. Let me start by asking, Aitor, were you surprised by those Slido results, that people are much more familiar with AI, but still it's mostly in the middle ground, and then considerably less familiar with quantum?
Yeah. Okay. Well, in the first moment, I want to present Gaia. You think Gaia is the business association of the applied knowledge and technologies industries of the Basque Country, uniting more than 300 companies and over 26,000 professionals who together form one of the Spanish most dynamic digital and technologies ecosystems. And its members work across electronics, ICT, engineering, consulting, and advanced digital services, contributing more than 7,000 million euros to the economy each year and driving innovation both regional and national levels. And today, Gaia is not only strengthening the digital transformation of industry and society, but also playing a decisive role in the shaping of the next generation of strategic technologies in Spain. And in particular, that's the key, Gaia's activity promoting the development of quantum technologies in the advanced sensing, next generation of the communications and quantum computing, principally, and coordinating efforts across the ecosystem to accelerate their adoption in real application at industry. That's the case. So, yeah, in your question, if the artificial intelligence is difficult to go into the industries nowadays, imagine that the quantum computing is more difficult. But it's real that the quantum computing in the optimization and in the simulation way, they have a little bit business advantage in the real applications because there is another way to make the processes. Is another way to make a new artificial intelligence based on the quantum mathematics. So I think it's very important to us and to the ecosystem to know why we must to provide nowadays real applications with quantum computing. It's
Thank you.
a little bit necessary and quickly because otherwise another people will come and they will make this for us.
But I think you were probably in the expert category on quantum computing, so we'll rely on you for the information. Katja, let me come to you. Tell us a bit about what you're working on and your focus.
Yes, first of all, thank you, of course, for the invitation, also for the kind introduction, Jennifer. So just for my background, I'm from EA, Artificial Intelligence Regensburg, which is an AI cluster. So of course we have AI projects. We're located in Regensburg, so in the south of Germany, Bavaria. And we're located at a founder and innovation center, so also lots of startups. Tech-based, and we have two clusters, so cluster mobility logistics, more experience, and a newer cluster air. And yeah, for current projects, so we have one innovation network on called MER or Meyer in German, multimodal AI for adaptive interlogistics and robotics. Then also one current project, which is really fun, is the AI driver's license. So we called it like that because it's kind of give you the basics and addresses directly to citizens. So it's about upskilling and making people curious about AI, because we often also see that that's still, you hear AI all the time, but you don't really know like how does it work, and can it help you to do everything, or you're even afraid of it? So within 20 minutes, then it's a nice little travel also around the city, but virtual, that helps you to know about the basics. But we also have, of course, working groups. So also one on embedded AI, also a new one on quantum technologies. So not only AI. And then in general, what we can say, of course, what is really important for us is the knowledge transfer also with the science. So we're also working closely with the university. And just because we also have another ED, and it was also already mentioned, so we also have colleagues are part of one European Digital Innovation Hub as well, which is called DINO.
Thank you, Katja. And of course, that's really important because there seems to be there's a lot of hype around generative AI, but there are, of course, lots of other types of AI that we could consider. Yeah, let me come to you. Tell us, what are your current activities and projects related to AI and quantum?
Okay, thank you. So I'm from RoboCoast ED from Finland, and so we are our core customers are the manufacturing industries, the factories, the small and medium-sized companies, and we try to collaborate with them in different AI projects and also educate them. So we have arranged a lot of education sessions and webinars in some projects, and then we have also tried to create some new technologies to combine digital twins and AI, so that in future more and more factories could run virtually, so that the digital twin is actually doing the working processing and then just working together with the real robots, and so the robots would have an awareness and intelligence of their what's going on and what kind of product they are doing, and then the whole production line could be lights out. So there's no people on the production side at all, but in the control room only. So this would be one how we see that the future of AI is in the manufacturing field, and we have done some proof of concepts in this area.
Thank you. We'll come back to talk a little bit more about that. Matthias, give us your background and what your focus is, and tell us a bit more about the organization.
Yeah, happy to do this. Thank you for the kind introduction. I'm working for Einquantum NRW or NRW for a state of North Rhine-Westphalia. We do this as the office of this network on quantum technologies, from quantum computing to quantum communication, quantum sensing, and also the enabling technologies, because you should not forget that quantum computing, sensing, and others need very special conditions usually, and that's something where our state is specifically strong via the large industry background. I've been working now for about 1 year in this position, and I would like to get to your question where you asked why AI is so much already kind of familiar to people, why quantum technologies are not. I think that's rather much to because it's really familiar. You have ChatGPT, you have other things that you can directly use to a certain extent for free, that even makes it so much familiar. In our company, people started giving the nickname the aunt to ChatGPT. If there's a question, yeah, quickly ask the aunt, she will help you. Be careful with that statement, but that's how familiar AI is now in our lives. Compared to that, quantum technologies, at least if you stick to quantum technologies as we consider them today, like this, like second revolution, what people call it, because quantum physics as the basis for many technologies we have in use today already, that's something quite hidden, where like quantum technology will get into the properties of quantum. That's something that comes or has come in the last years, so still evolving quite much. So quantum computing, for example, that's the counterpart to AI, I would say, or like extending to a certain extent also AI in certain application. That's something that you cannot use that directly, like you go to a web service, though the first quantum computing manufacturers have like small capability and small capacity quantum computing available as online services. Yeah, I think that's rather much to that question. And just addressing this, not to offend you, but this lack of quantum literacy, I just put into the chat the invitation to our kickoff event. So we would be happy to welcome you there in Dortmund next year in February. Please apologize. The page is so far only in German, working on the translation to English, but I think the most parts should also be available from the form for application for registration.
I'm sure there's an aunt out there can translate it for us.
Exactly.
And also to mention, Katja has also put in the chat the link there to the driver's license as well. Marietta, let's come to you. The same question, same openings, remarks from you. Tell us what you're working on. Tell us what your current activities and projects are.
Thank you for the invitation to join here from Copenhagen. I will mention 3 things. MADE is the National Cluster for Manufacturing. We have about 250 manufacturing companies as MADE.
Marietta, could we ask you to increase the volume or increase the sensitivity of your microphone? You're a little bit quiet compared to the other speakers.
I'm usually not quiet, so is this changing it to the better?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, for sure. So 3 things. MADE is the National Cluster for Manufacturing, and we have about 250 manufacturing companies as members, and also the technical universities and RTOs. So we are kind of like the one-stop shop when manufacturing needs help and to develop. And as a cluster, we offer various kinds of projects and schemes, such as kickstarts, projects, and demonstrations, and research, joining, and so. Many of it financed through public funding. For the last, I would say, 2 years, also AI has been one of the popular topics in these various offers and being used in many different fields. Optimizing maintenance has actually been one of the major one as an easy way to start. As a second thing, I will mention that MADE is a partner of AI Regio 5.0, a big Horizon project that ends right now, where 43 partners have joined forces to promote the adoption of AI at the edge. It's not easy, it doesn't go fast, but when we join forces across Europe, I believe that we actually develop tools that get further out. And also a network so that we can get help across country boundaries. As a third thing, MADE is a partner in the AdSmart EDI that is in the northern part of Denmark, up in Jutland. And what is a little interesting about this place is that that is actually where the manufacturing companies have the lowest competences in manufacturing. They are not developing very well. So why do I mention this? Well, as partner, we also have Aalborg University and the vet partner UCN, and they have some of the highest skill in this area. So this is an EDI that really have a task to do. And there we see new, not very advanced, but rather simple AI projects taking a start.
Thank you. And Thomas, last but not least, you've heard the colleagues, so same question, put your presentation on what you're working on.
Thanks a lot, Jennifer. Well, I'm working for the Enterprise Europe Network, but my employer is the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. So we are the national funding agency for industrial research projects. So I have about 450 colleagues, and I'm working in the division for European international programs. And of course, we have a lot of funding programs for AI. There is an AI ecosystem funding program installed since several years. We also have funding programs for quantum technologies, for market introduction. I am working in the Enterprise Europe Network. So what is the Enterprise Europe Network for those who have heard this term the first time? It's a huge network with about 450 organizations all over Europe and beyond. So I have about 2,500 colleagues, and we help SMEs to internationalize and to innovate. So the network is funded by the European Commission and coordinated, and so we help SMEs. And in the network, there are also sector groups on the different industries, and I'm the vice chair for the sector group Digital. This is a group of about 100 members of the Enterprise Europe Network with a background in digital business, in software development. And we have a specific focus on helping our communities. So we usually implement it on a regional basis in Europe. So I'm for example, just responsible for the region for the region around Vienna. My colleague Benno, who is the chair of the sector group, he is in North Rhine-Westphalia, working for Zenit. Matthias, you may know him. And he's just responsible for North Rhine-Westphalia. And this is also the big strength of the network, because inside these regions, all these organizations are usually Chamber of Commerces or innovation agency. They have a quite good name, and that name can be used to spread all these informations of our clients, SMEs, or initiatives or all over Europe dealing with AI or quantum. So the European Digital Innovation Hubs, the testing and experimentation facilities, the AI factories among our clients.
Well, thank you all. So I think we can see there's clearly quite a lot of expertise on this panel. So let's start with the questions, but I want to remind all the attendees that you can use the Q&A function if you want to ask questions of the panelists, and remind panelists, raise your hand if you want to jump in to answer something a colleague is already speaking about. Juha, let me come to you and ask, how do you evaluate the uptake of these technologies by industry, and where are there challenges, or what are the biggest challenges that we're worried about?
Okay, so well, there are a lot of traditional industries owned by maybe families, and they have been doing their business for decades, and they are very professional at it. So they have collected during that time a mountain of data, but they don't know what it's in there. So that's maybe when you start to find a proper way how to use AI, usually this is where we need to start. That what have they collected? What data do they have? And this has become a bit obstacle there, that it's a mountain and you need like a geologist of the data to examine the data, that to find where the gold is and where to dig. And we already have now good tools. There are algorithms and we have AI, but now we need an experts to go through this material and find there's old ERPs, new ERPs, PDFs, emails. People keep their just in memory a lot of things. So how to combine everything and make it a profitable business? This is, I think, the obstacle where we are at the moment. So we have good tools, and but how to apply it on the production side, for instance, or to make a good tender, bidding, how to win a bidding race, competition. You need a good data, and there's a lot of room for improvement. And this is where the traditional companies, they are now meeting their problem, that what do we do with the data? Who can help us?
Merete, from your perspective, the same question. What are you seeing? Anything similar?
Yes, indeed. I will actually refer to a new investigation made just this year, trying to see how is the status of use of AI in SMEs in Denmark. The Aalborg University and Aarhus University, they actually made a rather big investigation here. And the first thing was being asked, so do you actually use AI? And to that question, about 73% said yes. So you could say, wow, and we are really on the way here. But it turned out that it was, when you dig into it, a lot of ChatGPT and not very linked to the production as so. So only about 7% was actually fully integrated into the processes and so. So in this way, we should be careful about how we also look at the data and the answers to such questions. Another interesting point about the uptake here was that even when you looked at the companies that did apply the AI, it was specific sectors. So it was mainly within the communication sector and not in general the manufacturing of metals and electronics and so on. And the last thing was that the real big challenge was the skills level. 74% was answering that there was a lack of skills preventing them to take that first step. And 51% limited management skills to take the step. So when I mention this, it is because we still have a barrier of even getting to look at those data that Juha was mentioning before.
And when we talk about the use of AI, I suppose we mean the meaningful use of AI, or the use of AI to drive competitiveness. And if you're just using the same tool as your competitor, it's not really a differential. Katja, your thoughts on what might be the challenges? Is it skills, as Merete is saying, that you're experiencing?
Yeah, I think I totally agree that data readiness is, of course, a huge topic. And then we saw it also in the Slido that you often have the pilot projects, but then it's really difficult to get into scale phase. I think what we see, what is really important is also to have realistic expectations on AI, what it can do and what it can't do. Then especially for the SMEs, you need the support from the management. So this is key. And also, of course, the exchange with the other organizations. And then to start, of course, you can find a use case that is likely to bring added value, and then you can help to scale that. But yeah, I think it's still difficult to scale. Then, of course, there is also the skills as mentioned, but also it helps to have an AI first mindset. So do not take the same process and put AI on top of it just to use AI, but really use AI where it makes sense. And then of course, yeah, we see the upskilling, and that you also have to take the time to implement new solutions.
Aitor, the same question to you. What are the big challenges, the hurdles? Is it skills? Is it data? Is it something else like energy? What is it that you're seeing?
Well, I think yeah, the data is a challenge, but I think mm, the biggest challenge is it seems that the last five years there will the artificial intelligence process there didn't see exists. And nowadays, all the artificial intelligence process or application are ChatGPT. And say are you using artificial intelligence? Yes, ChatGPT. But there is more than ChatGPT in the artificial intelligence processes. So I think the more chances to the education, in the business, in the clients, to show them that there are more than ChatGPT in the artificial intelligence processes. And perhaps, yeah, there is the ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence generative nowadays is necessary in the business. There is not an opportunity. The opportunity, there are a lot of people who have been working in artificial intelligence projects from 20 years. And the companies in the last 5 years, um, these companies that are improving the artificial intelligence projects into the companies 10 years ago, they had an opportunity and competence. But nowadays, there is not an opportunity with ChatGPT, but yes, with the new artificial intelligence or the quantum artificial intelligence projects. But in the next 3 or 5 years, perhaps it will be occur the same. And someone could take off platforms in the quantum artificial intelligence, for example, and it will be unnecessary, not an opportunity. So I think the more challenge is to the education, to the make our clients to understand that there are nowadays an opportunity in the other artificial intelligence that is not ChatGPT and the other artificial intelligence that is that quantum artificial intelligence.
Well, Thomas, before we get to this necessity, not an opportunity stage, and we've said that there are challenges there. What sort of support mechanisms does industry need to bring these sorts of emerging technologies to scale, to usefulness, to really practically involved and embedded in their business?
I think you have to distinguish which companies you're addressing, because I think if you have an let's say company with 20 and more employees, usually they have at least one software developers, and then they have someone in-house who is interested in that topic. But if you're talking to micro companies, usually they don't have this competence in-house. Then there is much more needed to convince them and to guide them, to take them by the hand, grab them and analyze what kind of chances are available, analyze then taking the first steps, bring them to the right support initiatives which are available by the European Digital Innovation Hubs, etc., and then take the first steps. So I think this is dramatically necessary, and also still more promotion what is available here in Europe. So this is if we're talking about AI, usually they just see ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there is much more.
of course. Matthias, Thomas has very rightly pointed out that there's different sorts of businesses. There's micro businesses, there's SMEs, there's mid-size, and they have all different needs. But if we were to generalize, where do you see the big need for support mechanisms? What sort of support mechanisms? And is there anything that you say that, well, if we want to scale up, this is what the direction we need to go?
I would discriminate between those now from the quantum technology point of view who are producers or vendors, providers of quantum technologies, might be hardware or even software. Like, how could they get into business? Because, yeah, it's definitely difficult. You have use cases most of the time, but use case compared to business case, that's a completely different story. There are many, many things like in quantum computing and optimization, and then they compare their quantum computing based optimization results to something by purely mathematical and classical optimization. And then you get the impression that they compare it to benchmarks where people who are, experts from the mathematical standard classical optimization say, well, that's a nice benchmark, but this is not what we would realistically do if we had a task of optimization. So how to get then use cases to business cases, and then how do you create or help the market? Would say there's something like, okay, what could from our perspective public sector entities to like ministries or financing and funding agencies that are publicly rooted, like, and we as a group, we think that buying stuff like a public buying initiative could help quite much. And you buy it, and in return, you get something like you put it into some application center. So you buy from the producers of computing, for example, and the contract involves something like, okay, you do it in steps. So provide, for example, this and that at certain stages, and this will be available in return then to companies, now getting to the users that are trying to make use of this. So starting from the software companies, where software here means something completely different than in classical software. It's a completely different paradigm. And then also to the users. And we have in our state quite some companies that are interested to use this, from energy providers who think they can or already do pilot projects to have the optimization of their networks. I don't know if even trading of energy, to logistics, but also in the material and pharmacy research, like finding new materials, new medicine, new pharmaceutical stuff. I don't know, and that's something what we can do and how we can help to bring also, and then getting back again to the networking stuff, to bring in the groups. And then I would like to very briefly get to this point, challenges in the previous question, because challenging from, yes, you can see the promise and the challenges to take that promise, to grab it. But also for quantum computing, for example, you have the challenge that this is dangerous, challenging for our cybersecurity, that quantum computing, when it has reached a certain level of maturity and capability and capacity, that it could directly or will directly attack some part or certain stuff of cryptography. And so you also need to have and keep in mind that from the challenge perspective, the black side or the dark side of the technologies. I think that's the same with AI. And here, again, advertisal block, we also have a project EU funded. I would just put into the chat that directly addresses this challenge, quantum computing on cryptography, and very happy because we have a big Europe-wide round here, and would be great to have you involved in that project in our Athens workshop also, because most of the time we are doing something for the public sector, so we can also help here and gain some advantage.
Thank you very much, Matthias. And I also see that Thomas has put into the chat as well the link to the Enterprise Europe network. So it's quite fascinating what you're talking about there, and I'm wondering whether there are businesses that are concerned about whether or not they should buy off the peg AI tools that they want for a use case, or whether they need to do this sort of things in house. Thomas, is there a fear amongst businesses that they might be outsourcing too much or giving away much of their data if they're not developing their own AI tools?
Yes, of course. So data is something you do not want to give away. So we all know we have to handle our data according the GDPR regulations, and so this is something. But I think people are also not aware about what is possible. So, and we are collaborating with the European Digital Innovation Hub AI5 production. And in the last contract period, they had 120 test cases available for this test before invest. And they said this was incredible interest from the industry because it was an easy tool. It was a very fast tool. So you apply and within 2 weeks you get an answer. And then you will be guided to a proof of concept if a specific problem in your company can be solved by AI. And after that, you have an idea how to proceed. So if you go for a funding project, for example, or if you do it with together with a university, for example, that's the kind of support where you get immediately results and get familiar with AI, I think.
Thank you very much indeed. Absolutely a useful tool for businesses out there. Juha, let me come back to you to ask where you see the biggest investment gaps in Europe's innovation landscape, obviously for AI or for quantum technologies.
I'd say that it's there in the customer field that we need a fast demo funding for real world adoption. And we don't now have this kind of funding mechanism that we could do a proof of concepts or something, the similar tests with the customer quickly. So now we have to look after open calls and maybe local resources to find this. And it would be very useful to have this kind of a tool for these proof of concept tests with customers.
Katja, from your perspective, is there any area where you see a big investment gap?
I think maybe to also refer to Juha's answer, what I think helps there concretely, what we also have as a living lab. I mean, also others can probably talk about the test before invest solutions. So that's really helpful here. In general, I think, of course, what is really important is the sovereign compute and data infrastructure. We heard data is really, really important. Also GDPR, so European and solution, and also that you don't have so much the concerns about data privacy. And then, of course, also the energy efficiency and also to avoid vendor lock-in. So, I mean, we heard also from Gaspar, who already mentioned the AI gigafactory. So there's also a lot that happens here. And I think what is generally, of course, also important is that you have clear regulations, so you know what to expect for investment. And then we talked a lot about AI. I think for quantum, it's even more the challenge because the commercialization is still more difficult and still pretty expensive.
Thank you. I mean, yes, obviously we got to consider the GDPR, but of course that does only apply to personal data, and we may in a business context have non-personal data, although it's rarer than you'd think. Meret, the question to you is, where do you see gaps in either support or in investment?
Well, the gaps can be linked to what Juha and Katja was saying just before. The thing is that you can, in a way, mention every area because we are not really grabbing it to a high level and good extent. I will actually go back to the point earlier made about the SMEs that cannot see how to get started. It may not be the biggest one, but I think it may be the most neglected ones, that we need better entrance for the SMEs that do not know how to get started. Is that the biggest investment in billions? Maybe not. But if we don't make the support system, the entrance systems for the small SMEs better, then they will never get into this race.
Thank you. Matthias, same question to you. And just as a reminder to our attendees, I haven't seen many questions this morning in the chat or the Q&A. I wonder if that's because we're talking so quickly and we're answering all your questions, or maybe people are just intimidated by the subject matter. But please do put your questions in, because we've only got 5 minutes left if you want our panel to answer them. But Matthias, back to you on the challenges, the investment challenges, and what you see maybe there is lacking.
Yeah, investment gaps everywhere. No, but we have quite some initiatives, quite some vehicles to fund, whether it might be in AI or in quantum technologies. The question is, could we do better? And this already goes into the direction what I described, like this idea that you have public institutions, also from the university and research center perspective, buying stuff to have like a win-win situation, like having for those you buy from who have not only the investment that is like, yes, okay, we give you an investment, and as a VC, for example, and then in 10, 20 years, we want to have it, by a factor back. We want to have it back by a factor of 10. But that's a clearly structured plan you have when you are sure or have managed to have a state or public buyer on your list that supports you. And at the same time, the other side of the win-win situation, like those people who can use those companies and also available to SMEs. And yeah, then most of the things already have been discussed and mentioned by the others in our panel here. But I think one should also not stick too much to the financial aspect, but also to the support in terms of service, of consulting, of simply providing access to new technologies. And this is, I think, where you can use one and the same euro twice or even three times. I think that's something that is very important also for quantum technologies.
Well, I think then to wrap up, we know the clusters work on all sorts of different things, from farming to health, or even, as I saw in the chat this morning, from agriculture to fashion. So let's talk about these emerging technologies as a wrap up in how they can help deliver the other goals, be that sustainable goals, be that defense and security goals, be that security of supply or developing better healthcare. I'm going to ask each of you if you can, talk to me about one area where you think deployment of these new technologies could really be the game changer. Aitor, I'll start with you again, and I'll do a full round, and so you can give us your wrap up thoughts as well as looking to the future.
Okay. Well, in the last questions, I think it's very important. The gap is in the customers, as Matthias said. I know this is the last question, but for example, here in the Basque Country, there is a public initiative called BICAIM. It's a part of Basque Quantum, focused in the investing of the proof of concepts in the demand side in companies in real quantum applications across industrial, bank, health, and we have now 14 projects, 14 real projects in this sense. Gaia, too, with the Spanish Ministry, and Red.es, it's another collaboration on public and private, is helping lead a large framework that is currently supporting more than 30 projects focused in the application of the quantum technologies in health, in bank, at industries. So in these questions, how the technologies will be improved the future. Well, we are in a digital world. Everything is computing, so we need to accelerate our knowledge, to accelerate our research, to accelerate our industrial processes, and to improve the health issues with these technologies and with new technologies. No? And in these cases, again, the quantum technologies is making a new way to, with brute force and in a real parallels, did analog parallels with new computers, we can improve or we can solve problems that or nowadays it's impossible to solve, principally in the new chemical, new materials, new health solutions, and new industries processes. So I think it's a very good moment to get into these technologies, but to get into like leaders in a new software and in a new hardware. But we must to get into now, tomorrow.
Gotcha. Solving impossible problems is here. How do you see emerging technologies, AI, as being able to solve some of these goals, sustainability goals, security goals?
So I think you asked to pick one example, one domain. I think that's really hard, especially as we had just last week at the Cluster Meets Regions conference in Regensburg, a session, an entire session about AI and green tech. And I think it's a really important topic because we heard about the challenges, the rising AI, rising energy demand for AI, so for training, but also for the use. There are also more like rebound effects, market power concentration, and so on. But I think if I have to pick one, it's about smart factory and process efficiency. So all the energy and material savings that we can have here in production. So predictive maintenance, also more simulation in product development. So you have less waste of material and also better products in the end. And also then the demand planning, of course, same, you also have less waste of material and also efficient transport and logistics management. And I think if you then bring in the quantum as well, there, of course, they also promise optimization, so gains for routing, scheduling, also energy systems in the future.
Well, I'm asking you to pick one on the panel. Fortunately, the EU doesn't have to pick one, but Thomas, I'm asking you to pick one that you might think be as a highlight for the deployment of emerging technologies.
Yeah, so I have just published a few weeks ago a technology offer, one of my clients. So he has developed an AI solution to optimize district heating systems. And so it's incredible. So he has tested a system in 2 district heating systems in Austria, and he could prove that savings of up to 20% are possible. So, and I think there is nothing more to tell. I will publish the link to this profile in the chat. Yeah, this is one example how AI can improve the sustainability.
Thank you, and thank you for the link. Juha, the same question to you.
So to pick up some technology to assist in the sustainability. Well, maybe to change the production sites to be more intelligent, so that, as mentioned before, less waste, less energy produced in production, but also that the production line is more used. Like today, they are used maybe to create one product, a lot, million copies, and then it's not very agile. So the future, it would be agile, and you can use a lot for a lot of things, a lot of different production, the same system and same machines also. So you need less machine, that they are more used, and the other benefits already mentioned there, that the less waste, less energy waste. So I think this is one thing, and the tool would be that AI and digital twin combined can drive the systems, and then the robots become intelligent.
Thank you. And of course, digital twins have a vast number of uses, particularly in healthcare as well. We're seeing really fascinating things. Matthias, where can our new technologies that we're talking about today deliver on the goals? It doesn't have to be sustainable. It can be any of those big societal challenges.
Difficult to say. I do not have a glass ball to look into the future, but I can tell where I see things, or where I simply agree with the other panelists. Quantum computing, logistics, material science, putting quantum based or quantum oriented simulation on the hardware it needs. But I would say again that I would bet more on an evolution rather than a revolution, because there's the famous saying by the more or less famous Bill Gates, saying you usually overestimate what you can do in 1 year, but you underestimate what can be done in 10 years or something like this, and think that's the same. Revolutions are more like in 1 year, it's like we will live in a completely different world. And like 10 years, that's something you do not notice that very much. Like looking every morning into the mirror, you do not notice the slowly evolving changes, but other people will notice they have not seen you for 10 years. And like us looking back from now in 10 years, we will then see like, okay, this has changed. And most probably we have not imagined these changes, but overestimated other changes, I think. And from the sustainability point of view, talking much about AI, we have talked about the software perspective, I think, but there's also the hardware perspective. Nowadays we have, NVIDIA cards, basically. That's like NVIDIA is like the backbone of AI through all the world. But there are also initiatives on neuromorphic computing, like putting especially neural networks on a hardware that is much more suitable for doing these calculations. And we should keep that in mind compared to the approach that's nowadays just throwing GPUs and more energy on these problems.
So in the future, we may not be talking about GPUs at all. I like your Bill Gates quote, Matthias. As a sci-fi nerd, I'll come back with you with William Gibson. The future's already here. It's just not very evenly distributed. Mariette, I'm going to come to you for our final word. So you can talk about sustainability, or you can give us your hopes if we are looking to the future. None of us have crystal balls, but be nice to know if you have a thought.
Yeah. Well, working in the field of manufacturing, I find it very important to point to the need for establishing take-back systems and steps towards remanufacturing, because this is a need if we want to talk sustainability and green agenda, or whatever we put on top of it. So that would be my pick. However, so you can say that the technologies go well in hand and can definitely help us to make improvements here. But one thing that has not been mentioned, and that may not be the positive note that you had hoped for, however, whatever we use when we talk data, AI, quantum, and so on, is also an enormous amount of data use, and it comes with a very high energy consumption. And unfortunately, this issue is very seldom erased. And I often ask, what is the cost in energy for all the use of data? And I very seldom get an answer. So you can say my hope is that we will not only use the new technologies for the agenda points, but that we will also see what is the cost on another agenda. Thank you. Let me be positive, because I hope someone will grab it. I just haven't heard so much yet.
I think it depends where you are. I know it's a big conversation in Ireland at the moment because the cost of the data centers there is huge. But this is a conversation for another day. But I think we've run out of time for today. So thank you all so much indeed for your input. Really, really, really interesting conversation. But for now, let's turn back to Nina for the funding opportunities.
Many thanks, Jennifer, and many thanks to all of the speakers. Very interesting to listen to you. Just to close the session, we would like to highlight a few calls that might be of interest for you. First of all, there's a call open for the consolidation of the network of European digital innovation hubs, especially with the reinforced AI focus. This, as it says, as the call name says, should aim to cover all regions of the European Union and associated countries. And each EDIH should provide services based on a specific focus and expertise to support the local, private, and public sectors with a digital transformation, and of course, specifically looking at the development and training, deployment, and uptake of European AI. This call is for either an existing EDIH co-funded by a program or as an EDIH with a seal of excellence. And the topic ID you see here in the screen, the deadline is the 3rd of March. It is published on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. Data space for manufacturing is another call that is open that might be of interest. Here, the action should support the uptake and further expansion of the data space for manufacturing. So the primary objective is to develop legal, technical, and business solutions to pool sufficient data and enable authorized AI developers to have direct or indirect data access to train generative AI models specifically for the manufacturing sector. So there are a number of expected outcomes that should be delivered, solutions to allow the collection of the data, that allow access to large data sets to train the models, to have agreements with specific AI factories, and also the interoperability and governance framework of manufacturing data spaces, with the topic ID that you see here in the screen, and the deadline is the 3rd of March, also published on the Funding and Tenders portal. And looking more into scaling up deep tech ecosystems, there's a call open to strengthen inclusive, interconnected, and efficient innovation ecosystems across the EU. It promotes collaboration between innovation leaders and less advanced territories to boost competitiveness, sustainability, and cohesion. And there are several challenges which you can address under this call: reducing reliance on fossil fuels, increasing global food security, mastering the digital transformation, improving healthcare, or achieving circularity. Also see here the topic ID with the deadline of the 20th of January, and also published on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. So have a look at those calls. Of course, there are many others published for the next opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nina. And that's it for our Clusters Talk this morning. We're letting you out by 10 o'clock. A reminder that you can, of course, register for the next talk in the new year on 14th of January. That is the Joint Cluster Initiatives presenting the new Euro clusters in Strand 2. You can, as always, continue the conversation on the LinkedIn page there. That's the European Cluster Collaboration Platform General Discussion Group. And you can also follow on all the other social media channels there. You can see where the website is, the X link, the LinkedIn, and the Facebook. And always, if you want to talk on any social media of your choice, many are out there, you can use the hashtag EU Clusters Talks or ECCP. But that's it for today. Thank you all for joining, and hopefully see you all in 2026.